Hello grade 11s. In this video, we will look at a small home industry business. We will look at how we determine the cost price, selling price, and profit in a small business. Before we look at the business in more detail, let's revise a few terms. The cost price is the amount of money it takes to make one item. It is determined by two factors: fixed cost and variable costs. Fixed costs do not change in value. An example of this would be rent paid for a property. Every month they will need to be paid, regardless of the amount of business done. Variable costs can change. Usually, the more business that is done, the higher these variable costs will be. Selling price is the price a customer pays for the finished item or service. Profit is the amount of money the seller makes from the item. It's equal to selling price minus cost price. Let's look at our case study. Kitty's Cakes is owned by Mrs. Miles. She bakes and sells children's birthday cakes on order. Mrs. Miles does not employ any workers, but does all the baking and cleaning herself. She believes in being very hands-on. She also wraps them in special wrapping for convenient transportation, and all cakes include candles. Mrs. Miles does not have any fixed costs as she bakes in her kitchen, and her expenses are directly related to the price of her ingredients and the number of cakes she bakes at a time. We call these her variable expenses. All her ingredients and supplies she buys on a baking on demand basis. For the calculations that follow, we will talk about the cost price being inclusive of these factors. The ingredients she needs are 500 grams of cake flour, 125 milliliters of cooking oil, 375 milliliters of sugar, 200 milliliters of cocoa powder, 500 milliliters of icing sugar, 15 milliliters of milk, 150 grams of margarine, 1 tin of caramel, 4 teaspoons of baking powder, 4 eggs. She buys the following ingredients to bake her cakes: cake flour, 9 rand 49 cents per kilogram, cooking oil, 36 rand per 2 liter, sugar, 25 rand per 2,5 kilograms, cocoa powder at 36 rand and 99 cents per 250 grams, icing sugar at 26 rand and 50 cents per 750 grams, milk at 10 rand per liter, margarine at 33 rand and 99 cents per kilogram, 1 tin of caramel at 15 rand and 99 cents, baking powder at 12 rand and 99 cents per 200 grams, and eggs at 28 rand per pack of 18. To calculate the price of each ingredient, follow the following method using the flour as an example. 500 grams of flour that is required is divided by the amount of flour bought and multiplied by the cost of the flour, which is 9 rand 49. This gives a total cost for flour of 1 rand 90 cents per cake. Why don't you try completing these calculations by yourself? Your costing summary should look like this. Adding up all the individual items, we get a total of 83 rand and 95 cents. Now that we have the cost of the ingredients, we need to add the other costs associated with the making of the cake. Let's start with electricity. Mrs. Miles has a prepaid electricity meter, and she uses 3 units of electricity for the 1.5 hours that the stove is on to bake one cake. 1 unit of electricity costs 1 rand and 34 cents per unit. Her electricity costs are calculated by multiplying the unit cost of 1 rand and 34 cents by 3. This equals 4 rand and 2 cents. The candles cost an average of 5 rand a cake. She has also calculated that the packaging of the cake and the phone calls she makes to clients cost an average of 11 rand 50 and 2 rand 70 respectively. To calculate her variable costs for making one cake, we add all of these costs together. 83 Rand and 95 cents for the ingredients, plus 4 Rand and 2 cents for electricity, plus 5 Rand for candles, plus 11 Rand and 50 cents for packaging, plus 2 Rand and 70 cents for phone calls, equals 107 Rand and 17 cents. This is the cost price of making one cake. Now that we have determined our cost price, the next step is to determine the selling price. The selling price is equal to the cost price plus the profit that Mrs. Miles wants to make. In most small businesses, profit is an important factor to be sustainable. If the profit is too little, the business will not be able to absorb any increases in costs for raw materials or, in this instance, ingredients. After doing some market research, Mrs. Miles decided that she would sell her cakes at 250 Rand each. Thus, her selling price is 250 Rand. Her profit is equal to 250 minus 107 Rand and 17 cents. This is equal to 142 Rand and 83 cents. Mrs. Miles wants to know what her percentage profit is. We now need to show her how it is calculated. Profit divided by the cost price times 100 equals the percentage profit. Now, to get the profit, we find the difference between the selling price and the cost price. So the formula now looks like this. Selling price minus the cost price divided by the cost price multiplied by 100. So 250 Rand minus 107 Rand and 17 cents divided by 107 Rand and 17 cents multiplied by 100 equals 133,27 and some. Rounded off to 2 decimal places, the percentage profit is 133,27%. Now that we found the percentage of profit, let's put all of this information into an income and expenditure statement. The statement lists the fixed and variable expenses as well as the income and profit. Mrs. Miles is very aware about the cost of living increasing and that she could lose customers if she increases her prices. Let's see how an increase in ingredients of 12% and an increase in electricity by 20% will affect her profit margin. If the ingredients all go up by 12%, the new cost would be calculated by taking the present cost of 83 Rand and 95 cents and multiplying by 12 over 100 and adding to 83 Rand and 95 cents. This equals 10 Rand and 7 cents plus 88 Rand and 31 cents, which gives a total cost of 88 Rand and 31 cents. Using the same method, we now calculate the new price for electricity. 4 Rand 2 cents times 20 over 100 plus 4 Rand 2 cents. This is equal to 81 cents plus 4 Rand 2 cents, which means that the total cost of electricity is 4 Rand and 83 cents. Let's put these costs into the income and expenditure statement. Only the ingredients and electricity have changed. All other costs have remained the same. The profit is now 131 Rand 5 cents, which means that the percentage of profit is now 111,77%. Knowing what the cost price and selling price of items are and knowing how to calculate both prices forms a good foundation for working with cash flow projections on income expenditure statements. Thank you for joining us, grade 11s. Remember, the tasks for this section can be found in the Basics of Finance task video. You'll also be able to learn more about finance on our website, www.mindset.co.za/learn. Goodbye.